Hello there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heatherlyn Lewis. I am Mark's mother, and as such, that makes me a supporter. Rob and I also facilitated Heal Pretoria for 11 years, working mainly with supporters. So we have had quite a bit of experience in listening to supporters, listening to their anxieties and their fears, helping them to cope and deal with things. So Mark has asked us if we would please participate this week in the supporters meetings and in the Zoom meeting. I have to confess that when Mark was in rehab, I was extremely naive. We didn't have heal groups. There was Naranon and Tough Love, but I'd sort of avoided those. And I was pretty codependent and probably a huge enabler. Maybe we should take the probably out of that sentence. But how do you get from being naive, codependent, enabling, to being a good supporter? That's the question. So, like the addicts, I think we have to start at step one. And step one in the Naranon book recognizes that this is a family problem, that there are things we have to change. And they talk about the 3 C's. The 3 C's are: you didn't cause it, you can't cure it, and you can't control it. Now, people glibly talk about these 3 C's, but for me, I think once we internalize those things, once we actually recognize the honesty and the reality of it, it helps us to come to terms with what we're dealing with. You didn't cause it. How many of us look for reasons why our son is behaving like this? Oh, he lost his father as a young child. That ex-wife or ex-husband drove them to this. They had an unreasonable boss and the job was so stressful. And we just make all sorts of reasons because we basically want to cause and effect. This is what caused this effect in my child. If I take away the cause, the effect will go away. No, it's actually not like that. You didn't cause it. If you listen to Mark's workshops and talks, there are things like genetic predisposition, flawed perception. The addict himself will tell you there is nothing you did that caused this. What is the second one? You can't cure it. I think we have a problem accepting that our child is an addict. You hear people say, yes, but my child was just using dagga, or he has an alcohol problem, but he's never took drugs. And we make the addiction more or less according to what we think the value is. And we also hope that they're not addicts, that after their stint in rehab, they'll be fine. I remember thinking after Mark had been clean for 4 or 5 years, he would be able to drink again. No, he's going to be an addict for life. He can learn to live with it. You can learn to live with it, but it doesn't take the disease away. It's there, and we need to accept that. And we need to accept that our children are addicts, and they're not a lesser addict than anybody else. They're an addict. End of story. That gives them certain personalities and certain ways of behaving. And we need to just accept it and not keep making excuses that they are not as bad or they are going to get better. I remember one mother saying to me, well, I never believed my child was an addict. It was his father who wanted him to go to rehab. But it was his ex-wife that was pushing him to drink so much. He's an addict. The sooner you accept that, the better. The third one that they say is you can't control it. And that's the one we all fight. We want to put our children in a safety deposit box and control what they're doing so that they don't get into trouble. We think that by putting in these rules and taking away cars and doing all these things, it's going to help. One day it occurred to me, it was like a switch in my head, and I thought, you know what, no matter what I do, if Mark wants to use, Mark will use. That, in a way, was a huge relief. I didn't have to start thinking, am I doing enough to control this situation? Have I got enough rules in place? What am I allowed to let him do and not do? When he asks for something, do I need to make a decision about it? Basically, if he wants to go and use, he's going to go and use. And nothing you or I do is going to change that. And accepting that, accepting the fact that you can't cure it, taking away the guilt of you didn't cause it, frees you up from all this fear and anxiety and worry, because it's not your problem, actually, anymore. You can't do anything about it. So stop worrying and stop trying to do those things. What can you do? What can you do? Well, once you've internalized that and accepted those things, I always added another C. And the C is, what are you contributing either to the addiction continuing or to the recovery? How do you contribute to the addiction continuing? With your codependency or enabling and various things and rescuing? Or how do you contribute to the recovery using sensible boundaries, open, honest communication? Most of us are quite scared to say anything to our addict if we're unhappy, because we're scared that they will blow up like they did in the past. Remember, always remember, you are getting a different child back from rehab than what you sent. And you have got to learn to not be scared of them, not be anxious, but to have open, honest communication about your needs and their needs in a sensible manner. Let's talk about this on Thursday, 7 o'clock on Zoom, to follow this discussion and carry on learning how to be sensible supporters. And believe me, I know it's not easy, but if you get there, the rewards are great. So we'll see you on Thursday.